This property and this purchase and this buildings we're building allow us to have the full dream realized that we thought of 25 years ago. The preschool is one aspect of that new site, and then a gym and a theater, gardens, the outdoor amphitheater, and then this 2-story STEM lab.
We were awarded the project in 2016. The pre-construction phase was fairly lengthy. I mean, there was already pretty much a design done.
You know, we've been out here for over a year now, and that's just construction. You know, the design, I think, it dates back years.
Probably the most difficult portions was just getting through the city of Palo Alto. As you can imagine, it's a high rent district around here, so they're pretty sensitive about what you do. They're super sensitive about trees. So if you take one out, you kind of got to put 1.5 back in, depending on the size of the tree. So as you look around the site, you'll see a lot of trees that have gone back in.
One of the big hurdles here with Palo Alto is that they also have a green building reviewer. You provide this big binder that says, you know, all of the products that we installed in the building have this amount of volatile organic compounds in them, and this much of the entire product was recycled, and you have to meet a certain threshold. And in order to just get to get people moved in, we had to have that all done. It felt good at the end of the day to come in and have like this big binder like this and put it down. Like, we're good, and they signed it off and everything. So that was a huge thing.
We tell our young people all the time, it's easy to send an email. It's a lot harder to have a conversation. It's even harder to go meet face to face, right? But that's what you have to do. You have to be in front of them. You have to talk to them. You have to communicate with them. You have to push on them. Let them know, you know, the importance of getting that permit. And, you know, again, we're building a school. This is important, right? This is educating kids. The site was really small. There's not a lot of real estate around the buildings. So really planning how we were going to work our way out of the site was difficult up front, particularly at the end. We had concrete guys working over the top of landscapers, working over the top of, you know, pavers, and electricians were trying to put in light poles, and we had the rock that goes in the wall on, you know, over the spot where they were going to dig to put in their bases. And really just it's just every day managing those subs and finding pieces of real estate that they can work on while somebody else is working on the other half of the building, and really just getting them to play well in the sandbox together and coordinating that. It's just communication really at the end of the day, and finding them a place to work where they can be productive.
You can never look too far ahead. There's so many things that are going to come up, and you're just not going to have time. The more attention to detail that you have at the very beginning, the better. For example, there's usually some type of ceiling height that would be specified in any particular building. Specifically in this case at the Idea Lab, there was, I want to say it was a 9 or 10 foot ceiling, and when it comes to roughing in all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing installations, that ceiling height almost kind of shrinks and shrinks because all of those items have to be built into the ceiling. A couple months in advance, when we were starting to frame everything, our foreman had said, hey, we should probably start looking at these ceilings because it's going to be kind of close. I ended up putting together an overlay for all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, so we could see where everything was going to land and kind of start calculating where we were going to have problems and figuring out months before their installation where we were going to need to move everything. I love that every day is different. Almost every hour of every day is different. Something new comes up. For example, with the art scope shown in the drawings, you know, a few months in advance, we're kind of starting to look at this and we're saying, hey, how are we going to do this? We're going to have to put a lot of words into concrete and make it look nice and clean and beautiful.
We drilled holes into the plates, and then we put these threads that were anchored into the rat slab with nuts, so everything was adjustable, right? So we string lines and shot it in with a laser. That process was done, and then when the guys came out to pour the concrete, there's a really tiny film that was on top of this that we kept on. So once they got all done, smoothed it all out, we came back in after, took the film off, and then we actually had to scrub each individual letter.
As part of the design, I think it's important as the builders to understand what the designer's intents are. And so in this case, it was Montessori learning and Montessori type goals.
They were the only construction firm that asked to observe in our classrooms. And I felt like they've always been really in tune with the fact that this isn't a regular school. It's a very special, different school.
Back in the origins of Montessori education, the schools were held in homes. So I believe the naming of the Children's House was actually kind of a nod to that kind of history. And that's also kind of why when you look at the entire school from the street, it appears to be almost a residence, not necessarily a school. Had it just been maybe 30 minutes ago, there was someone, I think it's just some pedestrian walking by outside, and she had stopped by to say, hey, what is this place? It looks beautiful from the street. Like that's a good feeling. I know how much work went into it, but to see that other people are recognizing it, it's a great feeling.
It's really fun to see the kids and the teachers come in and get to use the facility, especially when you build something that they haven't had before. Seeing the kids run in there with smiles on their face really is fun to see.
Over the course of this project, I actually had a son myself. So it's kind of funny to see, to be in here, I'm looking at this thinking, wow, this is only a couple years away, and how lucky would my son be to be able to have this kind of education.
It's good for the soul, right? I mean, you're building a place where kids get to go learn. I mean, what's more important than that?
Anything I've ever asked of them, can they empty the room for the licensing inspection? Can they do this? Can they do that? Can they clean up their stuff for the tour on Saturday? They were really great. They stayed late on Friday night to make sure that happened. So I can't recommend them highly enough. They have just been amazing.